I love that analogy. You make these tiny, seemingly insignificant daily deposits, and the mental wealth scales exponentially over time.
And the biological mechanism behind that compound interest is dopamine. When you consciously acknowledge a completed micro goal, your brain releases a hit of it.
And dopamine isn't just the pleasure chemical, right? It's the molecule of motivation and learning.
Exactly. Your brain associates the effort of painting for 15 minutes with a positive neurological reward. This creates a brand new, upward spiraling behavioral loop.
So you aren't forcing yourself to work through sheer willpower anymore. Your brain begins to literally crave the action because it wants the reward.
Precisely. Through this process, Sarah naturally escalated her sessions and eventually completed 5 full paintings for her exhibition.
That's amazing. And we see the same architecture in the story of Mark, right? He's a tech entrepreneur terrified by the scope of building a revolutionary new app.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome was just suffocating him.
So he applied the micro-goal strategy by celebrating the writing of a single line of code or completing one 15-minute user interview.
He was manufacturing small dopamine hits to sustain his momentum through a multi-year project. Action is the ultimate antidote to anxiety.
Because confidence isn't the absence of fear, is it?
No, not at all. It is the capacity to take action while the fear is still present in the room. By anchoring their focus entirely on the microscopic next step, Mark and Sarah stripped the anxiety of its power.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. You can manage your internal software perfectly. You can do your pattern audits, write your manifesto, and rack up thousands of dopamine-fueled micro-wins.
What?
But we don't live in a vacuum. What happens when the external world actively pushes back?
Yes.
What do we do when we are forced to operate in a deeply toxic environment? Or when we face a catastrophic, undeniable failure?
That is the ultimate stress test. It brings us to step 5 of the blueprint, maintaining the new standard.
Right, because this section shifts our lens from internal cognitive behavioral therapy to environmental psychology.
Yes, your willpower and your dopamine loops are finite resources. If you are forcing them to constantly fight against a hostile environment, they will eventually deplete.
It's the equivalent of trying to grow a delicate, high-yield plant in a toxic greenhouse. You can yell at the seed to grow all you want, and you can water it with micro-wins.
But if the soil is poisoned and the air is polluted, the plant will wither.
Exactly. We treat confidence like it's a solo endeavor, just me, my journal, and my grit.
But the text provides compelling evidence that our self-belief is porous and highly vulnerable to our physical spaces and social circles. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the concept of cognitive load is central here.
Right, like how much mental RAM you're using.
Exactly. A cluttered, chaotic workspace or a peer group that constantly engages in cynicism and complaint requires subconscious processing power.
Your brain is constantly working to filter out that negative stimuli, which drains the cognitive energy you need to take risks and build confidence.
Right, and the text introduces another Mark here, a software engineer who is trapped in this sterile, muted color cubicle farm.
Oh man, he felt entirely invisible. The physical environment was communicating to him that he was just a cog in a machine, and his confidence just plummeted.
But he didn't just quit the job, though.
No, he altered the soil of his greenhouse. He organized a weekly lunch and learn where colleagues could present their passion projects.
He forced a change in the social dynamics of his workspace.
Yeah, he transformed it from an isolated cubicle farm into a collaborative environment. By changing the flow of energy in the room, his own internal self-belief rebounded.
He took ownership of his surroundings rather than remaining a victim of them.
It's so powerful. But the blueprint also addresses the internal environment when navigating severe external failure, right?
Yes. This is where the story of James, the musician, comes in.
And this scenario is brutal. James pours his life into his craft, auditions for a highly prestigious music festival, and receives a flat-out rejection.
And the confidence loop roars back to life instantly. He thinks, I have wasted my life. I am not good enough. Why do I even bother trying to make art?
It is the exact inflection point where most people permanently abandon their pursuits.
It is. But James survives this by utilizing a concept from Maya Angelou quoted in the text. You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated.
So he deploys a reset routine right in the middle of his devastation.
He analyzes his reaction and realizes his entire manifesto had been corrupted. He had started equating his self-worth entirely with the external validation of this specific festival jury.
He'd handed the keys to his confidence over to a gatekeeper.
Exactly. So he takes the wheel back, he shifts his focus to the intrinsic joy of making music.
He starts playing local open mics, collaborating with new artists. He curates a new environment that reminds him why he loves the craft, independent of elite approval.
James demonstrates the true nature of resilience. Resilience in this framework is not like a rubber band snapping back to its original shape.
What is it then?
It is a fundamental shift in how you process reality. It is a growth mindset that views setbacks not as a verdict on your identity, but as neutral, raw data for your next pattern audit.
Ah, so a rejection letter does not mean you are fundamentally flawed.
No, it is just a piece of information asking what variable can we adjust for the next attempt.
Okay, let's follow this trajectory to its logical conclusion. We have audited the faulty patterns, we've learned to interrupt the loop, we've clarified our values.
We're executing microactions, and we've curated environments that can withstand catastrophic failure.
Exactly. So where does this blueprint actually end? What is the final destination of the rebuild method?
The blueprint concludes by outlining the transition from confidence to mastery, which ultimately results in a profound shift in identity.
So confidence is positioned as the bridge, and mastery is the destination on the other side.
Exactly. Once the mechanics of confidence are running smoothly, the goalpost moves.
You elevate your standards.
Yes. You graduate from simply surviving a challenge to actively seeking out friction to facilitate continuous growth. You begin to really push the boundaries of your own capability.
What happens then?
Well, as you sustain this level of operation, the psychological phenomenon of self-perception theory takes over.
Remind us what that is.
This theory posits that we do not simply act according to who we are. We actually determine who we are by observing our own actions.
So what does this all mean? That makes perfect sense, honestly. The text highlights Michael, right? A software engineer who possessed brilliant technical skills, but was utterly paralyzed by the idea of leadership.
Yes, he utilized the entire framework. He audited his fears, built a manifesto around servant leadership rather than dictatorial command, and set micro goals.
Like volunteering to run just a single 5-minute update in a low-stakes team meeting.
Right, and he maintained that new standard over months. Because of self-perception theory, his brain observed him repeatedly standing up, leading meetings, and navigating friction.
The cognitive dissonance of thinking I am not a leader, while constantly performing the actions of a leader, forces the brain to resolve the contradiction.
Exactly. The brain updates the self-concept to match the physical evidence. Michael stopped utilizing the rebuild method to act confident because the confident persona had fully integrated into his actual identity.
The ultimate goal is to wake up one day and realize you haven't consciously thought about cognitive restructuring or micro goals in months.
The rebuild method simply dissolves into your default operating system.
The internal feedback loop finally works for you instead of against you.
The habits rewrite the software permanently. It requires disciplined, intentional work, but it completely removes the mystery from self-belief. It turns a vague, emotional concept into a concrete, executable strategy.
Let's synthesize this journey for everyone listening. If you find yourself trapped in a cycle of hesitation, the blueprint to escape is right in front of you. First, spot the glitch. Run a pattern audit to document your triggers and self-talk with clinical detachment. Second, hit pause. Deploy a reset routine to interrogate those thoughts. Force yourself to separate assumptions from verifiable facts.
Then you rebuild.
Right. Third, rebuild clarity by defining a confidence manifesto anchored in your intrinsic values, not societal pressure. Fourth, bypass your fear response with action lock-in, setting micro goals and letting dopamine compound your progress.
And finally, fix the greenhouse.
Yes, finally, pull the weeds in your greenhouse. Curate your physical and social environment, process your failures as raw data, and let this repeated behavior permanently upgrade your identity.
It is a rigorous system, but the science behind it is just undeniable.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final provocative concept to consider as you step back into your day.
Oh, I like this one.
We've spent this entire discussion treating self-doubt as a glitch to be managed, a loop to be interrupted, and a hurdle to be cleared. But if confidence is truly a muscle built through the deliberate application of the rebuild method, then the presence of self-doubt is not a symptom of weakness at all.
No, it's not.
Think about the mechanics of physical growth. When you enter a gym to build muscle, you actively seek out heavy weights. You require resistance to force the adaptation.
Without the resistance of the weight, the muscle cannot grow. The friction is the prerequisite for the strength.
Exactly. What if your self-doubt is simply the psychological equivalent of that heavyweight? What if your goal moving forward shouldn't be the total eradication of doubt?
This changes everything.
What if instead you transform doubt from a stop sign into a starting gun? The next time you feel that familiar tightness in your chest or hear that internal whisper questioning your capability, recognize it for what it truly is.
It isn't a notification that you are about to fail.
No, it is the necessary resistance training arriving right on schedule. It is simply the notification pinging in your brain that it is time to pick up your tools and go to work.
The presence of doubt is the only arena where the practice of courage is even possible.
Beautifully said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Your future resilient self is waiting. All that remains is for you to define your very first micro-action.
Just one small step.
So next time you find yourself standing at the edge of that majestic cliff, listen to the roar of the ocean, and that little voice whispers, "What if you fail?"
You know exactly what to do.
You know exactly how to rewrite the code. Keep building.